welcome into another edition of the Undercovers podcast. This time, it's a little different. It's a little different. It's
A
not the
little bit.
same, not the same vibes as me and you. And even though Ben's has been out for a little bit, he shall return next week. But it's not the same vibe as last week. It's just a tad bit different. This time isn't a 35-point victory, 37-point victory for the
Yeah, it's
Bills.
about the other way around.
It's a 25-point defeat from Sunday that honestly started bad from the beginning. It was an 80, believe it was an 87-yard touchdown on the first play
Mhm.
of the game from Derrick Henry and the Baltimore Ravens, and
Sets the
Bills
tone
just
really
could
quickly. That's one
Bills
of those
couldn't.
moments when you watch a game and the moment that you see a play like that happen, you just know the game is going to go in the wrong direction the entire night.
Yeah.
And that's exactly
Mhm.
what happened. The entire night, it was just one of those nights where nothing could go right for the Bills, and they happen. I mean, that's all
Yeah.
there is to it, is that they happen. It's not like this team is bad all of a sudden.
Mhm.
Like everybody wants to spout after this kind of a loss. Oh, they're bad. No, it literally just wasn't our night because nothing went the team's way. Just absolutely nothing. Literally, if you want to put it this way, God was a Ravens fan that night. That's how bad it was for us. You know how you could tell? That last like in the fourth quarter in garbage time when the Bills force the fumble and it goes back in the end zone and the Ravens land on it for the touchdown, that's when you know.
Yeah. It just wasn't the Bills' nights from the start of the game to the end of the game. It just felt like, someone used this analogy a few weeks ago. I forget which show it was. It's just like the Houston Texans got caught in an avalanche against the Minnesota Vikings. They couldn't regroup. The Bills did the exact same thing last week to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not like the Jaguars defense is bad. Look what the Jaguars did to the Texans offense this weekend. I mean, they weren't terrible. They were just injured. They just got caught in the Bills avalanche of offense. And then this week, the Bills got humbled this weekend
The
against
exact same
the
thing. The exact same thing that we did to the Jags, the Ravens did to us. And
yeah.
honestly, I'm happy this kind of loss happened this early in the season as opposed to late in the season when there's more stakes.
Yeah.
But let's actually go ahead and jump into the quick takes. I could go on and on about what I was about to say, but we have actual topics to cover tonight, so I kind of want to jump into that really
We
quickly.
have
So,
actual topics to cover tonight and
yeah, not me
actual
ranting.
news to break later in the show
Yeah,
because it seems like the Bills universe just has to get worse as it is already worse already. But we've completed the first month of NFL football. Just imagine how quick it's gone. It's gone. The first 4 weeks has concluded. We're into October, and that means it's time to sit back and evaluate just a little bit after the first 4 weeks. So after the first month of football, Connor, who has appeared to be the best team?
the bit I can't. I can't even. I'm not even gonna do that. Honestly, I still think it's too early to really say best team in the NFL because you've seen a lot of disparity, and you usually do through this short time in the season. It's only been 4 weeks. We've had teams look really, really good one week and look really bad the next, aka the Bills. We've had teams lose games that how on earth did they even manage to lose the game? Bengals to the Patriots. Uh, there was another one I was thinking. Oh yeah, the same Ravens lost to the Raiders, who are
They
literally on the
did.
cusp of trading away their only good piece on offense. Oh wait, they got Brock Bowers. That's right. Anyway, potentially great piece on offense. Probably will be though. He's been lighting it up so far, but
Yeah.
it's still really early. So I don't really want to say there
Very.
is a de facto best team in the NFL. Obviously, I'd give the benefit of the doubt to the Chiefs just because the Chiefs have proven to be winners. So yeah, they've won some ugly games, but they've won. And at the end of the day, winning's all that matters. 4-0 is always better than 3-1. I don't care how dominant your 3 wins look to your 1 bad loss if compared to if all 4 of the other guys' wins kinda looked awful. So, I would right now, I just have to say that best team would probably be the Chiefs, just because you can kinda anticipate that. You know, you give them the benefit of the doubt, they've been here. It's a
They
team
have, I mean,
s
ugly wins, but they won.
exactly. Now the Vikings, on the other hand, that people are talking about, the only other 4-0 team left in the league. What really just, like, makes me wonder is when is the other shoe gonna drop? We've seen the Vikings do this in the past. I think it was 2022. They went 13-4, looked like a premier team in the league, got a fresh round 1 exit served to them by Daniel Jones. So, I'm just wondering, is this iteration of the Vikings going to be different, or is this another one that's gonna get first rounded by some odd team that you didn't expect? But I don't know.
Their
The
schedule
Vikings have
isn't
played really
terrible.
well against good teams, though. Like, against some really good competition, like the 49ers, they've played really well. So, I don't know. I just feel like the other shoe's gonna drop at some point, but for
Hopefully,
right
it's
now,
not
I'd
this
have to say the
weekend.
Chiefs. Yeah, true. But for right now, I'd still say the best team in the NFL is the Chiefs, bar none.
Yeah, I'm not gonna disagree with you, but I am going to say this, like, the Chiefs, all 4 of their wins this season, believe it's all been one-score games. You gotta check that because they just been they just been on a roll with one-score games. I mean, week 1, they win by a toe. Week 2, they win on a walk-off field goal. The Chiefs had a comeback against the Falcons, week 3. Week 4, they had a comeback from 10 down to beat the Chargers. All are one-score games. What
Mhm.
does one-score games do, even though it's the beginning of the season? It kinda shows, like, this team is ready for playoff football at the beginning of this season already. They're winning these one-score games because that's all they have played so far. Their offense hasn't looked the same as it did last year or the years prior. It looks a little behind just a little bit. I mean, whether it's, Kelsey's aging just a little bit and they're just not using him, or if they installed the system with Rice and Worthy. So it's going to be how interesting to see what the Chiefs do because they had the Saints on Monday, and then they have the 49ers, the week after. They actually have a bye after the Saints. So they go Saints bye, 49ers, and then Raiders, Bucks. So I think that stretch, 3 of the next 4 games for the Chiefs are tests, but the way they've played, they're going to be in all those games. And the only
Perhaps.
game where I see the Chiefs actually winning, maybe by more than a score, is probably the Raiders. So they're probably going to play in a lot of close games, even though in the next like 4 games. You know, The Vikings, on the other hand, they've just flew through their first 4 games. They actually had a 28-point lead and nearly blew it on Sunday to the Green Bay Packers. So even though the Vikings defense is really good, that really good defense nearly blew a 28-point lead.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, like I said, still really too early to determine who might be the best team in the NFL through 4 weeks because some of those 3-1s look really bad. Some of
Yeah.
those 4-0s look kinda odd, but again, still too early. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt to Kansas City either way. Let's move on to the big news of the day. And no, not the
Yeah.
Bills related news. We'll get to that later. No, the
So
big overarching news.
maybe like 2 hours before the show, Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, Mike Golafolo announced that Devontae Adams has requested a trade from the
At
Las
last.
Vegas Raiders.
Bro is finally
Uh,
done. I'm so
it
happy
doesn't
for him.
seem doesn't seem like the Raiders are going to go in the right direction this season. They're going to take a little bit of a step back, which is normal because they have Gardner Minshew and others quarterbacking their team, not giving the best chance for Devontae Adams. It seems right now there's three potential landing spots. I mean, there's a whole bunch more, but it seems just based on, you know, the odds, the tweets, the just the overall conversation around Devontae Adams, it seems like there's three potential spots that Adams could land: the Jets, the Bills, and the Steelers.
When did the
Which
Steelers get
team
involved in
needs
this? Why are people talking about Pittsburgh?
I
Genuine
guess it
question. I've
goes
been out
back to
all
the
day.
Ayuk thing. They couldn't get Ayuk done, so they
Yeah, and how
probably
are they
was
gonna get Devontae Adams if they couldn't get Brandon Ayuk done? That's the question I wanna have answered.
yeah. But it seems like the Steelers are within the conversation of this. So which team needs
Which team,
Adams the
like,
most?
actually needs Devontae Adams the most?
Yeah.
Well, out of the ones listed, the Jets need him the most, and I have a feeling
Hmm.
that it's going to be the Jets where he winds up landing because the Jets with Aaron Rodgers are starting. You saw how they lost to Bo Nix and the Broncos by a single point last week.
Oof.
Desperation is incoming if the Jets wanna really start competing. So, at the point we're at, I would 100% say that the Jets are gonna be the ones to probably make the hardest push for Devontae Adams. As a matter of fact, I believe they've already reached out to the Raiders
Hmm.
to
They reached him out
discuss
this
a
morning.
Yep. Yeah, to discuss a potential trade, which makes sense. I mean, Aaron Rodgers to Devontae Adams was strong in Green Bay. Why wouldn't it be strong in New York unless you're talking about Father Time taking out Aaron Rodgers? What really has me intrigued though, and I'll let you get to your point first, Paul, before I talk about this, but what do you think between the Jets, Bills, and the Steelers?
You know, selfishly, I would say the Bills, just the way,
What money do
the
we
way
have?
just the way that we looked on Sunday. But the other side of me with the Bills, like I've already seen this wide receiver room flourish through the first 3 games. What does adding Devonte Adams do to a Bills wide receiver room? It certainly does improve it by a lot. You know,
Well, duh.
we'll talk a little bit about it later in the show, but not having a definite wide receiver one to me personally right now is kind of a concern, just based on just a little bit based on what we saw in last week, and receivers can't really seem to get much separation outside of yards after catch with the short passing game. We'll talk a little bit about it later in the show, but the team that probably needs Devontae Adams the most out of the 3 and most likely where's the landing spot where he's gonna go will probably be the New York Jets. You know,
Mhm.
they have Garrett Wilson, but who else do they have on that team? They have Mike Williams, but
Alan
Mike
Lazard.
Williams,
How dare
Alan
you forget
Lazard.
about Alan Lazard, Green Bay Packers legend
I
Alan
was getting
Lazard.
there. I was getting there, but like it's it's Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Alan Lazard. No one really else has taken over, I guess you could say, the wide receiver 2 option. I mean, it really goes if Adams goes to the Jets, it'd be 1A, 1B type of situation with Adams and Wilson, but it really improves their wide receiver room by a lot, and it just seems more likely because it's Adams and Rogers, and, if Rogers has probably already pounded the table for Devontae Adams, like, 6, 7 different times
Mhm.
over the last 8 hours. So, if they don't get it done, the Jets, it cou I mean, could we possibly be talking about a frustrated Aaron Rodgers for the rest of the season? Only time will tell.
Only time will tell indeed, but all of the stuff that everybody's talking about with Devontae Adams, wha people are forgetting something. Why do people think actually, You know what? No, 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 no. Back up for a minute. Does
Mhm.
anyone remember why the Raiders actually traded for Devontae Adams in the first place? Does anyone remember why?
Aaron Rodgers?
No. He went to go play with his college roommate Derek Carr.
Yes, yes.
Why is no one
That's
talking
true.
about
Yes,
Devontae Adams to the Saints? I know they have Michael Thomas, and I know they have Chris
yes.
Olave. Wait, do they still have
Mhm.
Michael Thomas? They don't have Slant Boy anymore? No, they do have Chris Olave, though, and they have Alvin Kamara,
They
and
do.
I'm not even sure they could pay Devontae Adams what he wants, but for God's sakes, why is nobody talking about the Saints as a potential destination for Derek Carr? As a matter of fact, I believe I saw earlier, I think Devontae was on, yeah, he was on the Up and Adams show with Kay Adams.
He
He
was.
was literally wearing a Fresno State shirt. That's where he and Derek Carr went to college together. I don't understand why people aren't thinking a little bit more about the Saints as an option for Devontae Adams, unless obviously they think that they're good with Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, and the legend Taysom Hill. But I,
Taysom
I
Hill.
just I can't understand why they wouldn't even, unless they literally have zero cap space, which would make all the sense of the world. And why I think he probably still wouldn't go to the Saints if the cap value was that bad. But
Mhm.
at the same time, it's still something that needs to be discussed. Like, for heaven's sake, that's why he went to the Raiders in the first place. That's probably why he'd want to go to the Saints. But before I go off on a long tangent about why Devontae Adams is going to be a Saint instead of any of the listed teams that people think of, and yeah, I know people think of the Bills. I thought people were going to get a little upset when I said earlier on Twitter that I didn't want Devontae Adams to come to the Bills because we couldn't pay for him and because I don't know how well he would mesh with the everybody eats mentality that Josh Allen said this offense was supposed to have. But that's a different, and then he's 31 on top of that.
32.
He 32? Oh, I thought he was 31.
He's 32.
Okay, well, that's even worse. He's older than what I initially anticipated. Getting an older guy in there that might be there for a couple of years, I'm not for it. So he can go have fun elsewhere, but go to the Saints so you could stay out of the AFC. Go be good over there, even though you crush Tampa Bay probably, and that'll make me sad. But anyway, moving on. We have Bills stuff to discuss. As much as we
We
don't
do.
want to do this, we're going to do it anyway because I know people are probably watching just to see me suffer. So I'm
Yes.
here for the suffering.
Minutes after the Devontae Adams news broke, Adam Schefter and everyone else noted that Von Miller has
Uh,
been suspended 4 games for his domestic violence dispute back in 2023. Uh, he's suspended 4 games for that and will miss the next 4 games that is the Texans, Jets, Titans, and Seahawks. Those are the next 4 games on the
ugh.
Bills schedule, and they're all very important games for the Bills. The month of October is probably one of the toughest months on the Bills schedule, maybe other than December. But how doesn't Von Miller's suspension impact the Bills over the next 4 games based on based on what he has done for the first 4 games of this NFL season?
Hey, I know I was joking last night when I made the tweet about Jalen Phillips being traded to Buffalo, but can we revisit this? No, I'm kidding. He's injured. We wouldn't be able to revisit this anyway. Plus, he would need an entirely new contract, and we still have to pay Groot. So that was a joke. It was a joke last night, but I don't know. It just makes our linebacking room hurt because Von Miller was playing really good football.
He
Like,
was.
sure, not last like 9 snaps against the Ravens, which I thought was kind of odd, but he was playing really, really well up until that game against the Ravens. So yeah, it hurts. I mean, what I think we're gonna see, Well, now we also have a pretty good idea as to why the Bills signed, uh, oh man, what's his name? We just signed him earlier today. You know who I'm talking about, Paul.
I am.
Zion
His name is
Large. I don't know.
Zion Lounge.
Louge. Is that
Loge.
actually how you pronounce it? Dude's big. Look at that guy. But that's why we signed this guy was
Let's see
because
if the Bills have a
the Bills probably
pronunciation
knew
guide
this was
on him.
coming. So hopefully he'll be all right. And we're gonna probably be seeing a lot more Javon Solomon from everything I've seen so far today. It's about to be a lot of Javon Solomon season. So all of the Javon Solomon agenda pushers out there, I think we're about to put our money where our mouth is and start pushing that agenda even harder in the 4 games that Vaughn's going to be out. It's basically the equivalent of having Vaughn get hurt in the Ravens game and going on IR. So at this point, it is what it is. We have to move on and play the games without him, but it's definitely hurting our linebacking room. Can we trade for TJ Watt now? Throw somebody in the pit, make it happen, make it to where we can get TJ Watt. All right. But anyway, yeah, it's gonna
Yeah,
hurt. It's really gonna
this one
hurt. We're gonna
stinks.
need a lot of people to step up.
This is the current Bills defensive situation. Matt Buffet tweeted this out after the suspension. Right now, Greg Rousseau, Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, Von Miller suspended, Matt Milano is injured, Terrell Bernard's injured, Taylor Rapp is injured, Mike Edwards, Taron Johnson injured, Christian Benford, Rasul Douglas. That's a very, very banged up slash suspended wide receiver defensive room. That is it's scarce. It's getting to the point where you really are digging into the depth that you built this offseason based on drafts and signings. You look at who's next behind Von Miller. That's probably Javon Solomon, another rookie that makes
Time for the
this
agendas to
linebacker
be
room
pushed.
very much so. I mean, in this limited snaps he's had, he's looked okay. I mean,
It's a
okay to
rookie.
about good.
It's a
He's a
rookie.
rookie. It's a rookie. Agreed. So this makes this tough because Von Miller was having such a good season. He has 3 sacks in the first 4 games. He's been able to put pressure on opposing quarterbacks except for the fact that he only had 9 snaps against Baltimore. Other than that, he's looked really good. He's back to Von Miller form, back in the way that we hoped Von Miller would return, and now he's suspended, and it really puts a dent on the Bills' defensive line. This this one really, really stinks because with all the injuries the Bills have had, it seems like they were just about to get through it and might have their their full defense back within the next week or so. And now that's literally just collapsed this entire segue that we had this for the Bills season heading into this new month for the Bills. And Milano injured, Bernard injured, Rapp injured, Johnson's injured, and now that's 5 guys.
And
That's
now I'm
5 guys.
injured
It's
by
nearly
proxy.
half of your defense out or
Mhm.
either suspended or injured right now.
Yep. Yep. It's
And you're
rough.
heading to and your next 3 out of your next 4 games are really tough.
Next
I
man up.
mean, don't sleep on the Titans, but I
That was the
wouldn't count
Dolphins.
them as a tough team for the
That
Bills. But if this is what the Bills defense is going to look like, that might turn tough in a few weeks.
well, I mean, again, I am not one to overlook opponents. I'm not
Mhm.
one to say there any win in the league will ever be easy because none are.
Mhm.
Um, that Titans game though, yeah, I'm more confident than usual, but it's still, the Titans, they're a gritty team. Look at what they did to the Dolphins. I mean, it is not going to be an easy game, but that's still a couple of weeks away.
Yeah.
this is the week I think most Bills fans ever since the end of the offseason have been waiting for, and that is the Houston Texans hate week. More like the crush Stephon Diggs as much as possible week. But I
Yeah.
gotta say, with everything that happened during the Ravens game, I only hope that they are mad, like actually
Oh,
mad about getting punched in the face, and they come out, they punch Houston in the face. So that's what I'm hoping we see, but they're gonna have to do that with a lot of injuries and now a suspension of Von Miller. So next man up. That's the only thing you can do. Next man up, no excuses. Get out there and get it done. That's
absolutely.
literally the
Next man
mentality
up.
of how it was the mentality of how I
Just
was raised in football. Next man up. Injuries happen.
yeah.
Next man up. That's why you make a
I
squad
just
that's
hope
talented all the way down the line.
I just hope that one of the two of Bernard and Johnson can play this weekend just to help supply the injured defense slash suspended Von Miller because uh, it's a very bleak defense, and I trust the guys that the Bills have signed as depth for the Bills this offseason and who they've drafted. So, and I think the Bills did a really good job of that against the in the offseason is just grabbing depth for that defense because you don't want to end up in a situation where you have nobody on your team, just like how it kind of happened in that playoff game. So I applaud the depth that the Bills have done this offseason. Off we go. Next man up. It's still early in the season. Would rather have an injured defense and
Mhm.
a suspended Von Miller right now, not not in the middle of the season or toward the end of the season where you're fighting for seeding and fighting for
Yeah, because
maybe a
we
potential last playoff spot.
yeah,
So
because
would
we
rather
know how
have it
well that
happen
ended
now.
last time.
Yeah. So would rather have it happen now than later.
Mhm.
But there was a game on Sunday that we have to get into, kind of dissect it just a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's dissect it probably in the most positive way as possible because
Well,
you could
then, be
definitely go
glad
into
I'm
the
here.
negative side of it easily. But what was one thing that you learned from the Buffalo Bills in Sunday's loss?
Well, I can't really say if there's anything I learned, but I wouldn't say it's anything I learned. I'd say my answer to this is more specifically, I hope the team learned that they are not, all powerful, all dominating, can crush anyone they face. This team needed to run into adversity at some point in the season, and I'm glad they finally did. Because now we're going to see if they learned from what happened against the Ravens, and they can go out, get come closer together, get stronger together, and go wipe somebody out, or not even wipe them out, just win. Just figure out a way to win football games. Now, if they do that and they beat Houston, we'll be just fine. If they somehow do not do that, then I'm going to get a little concerned about what are they doing over there? Have they learned nothing, or is there something else going on that needs to be addressed? But at the moment, I'm hoping that it's more of a long-standing thing that the team learned, you know, who they are at this point. And that's really what I'm going to say to that. I don't think we learned anything. It's just that this team has learned that they're mortal now, and they need to compensate and adjust because of that. And we need to also learn that Joe Brady is not perfect. He's a first-year offensive coordinator. I've never seen an offensive coordinator do that, but again, he's a first-year offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
He's bound to do something crazy at some point or other when they're down. What did Mark say?
So there is real reason for concern on
Mhm.
defense,
Yep.
especially after how Baltimore exposed us, but
Yep.
there's reasons for confidence in MCD, strong ability to
Mhm.
coach defensive
Yep.
depth. And I
I would
agree.
agree to that 100%. Yep. I would
Yes, the
also
Bills
like to
defense got totally exposed on Sunday. They
actually, Paul, hold on. I have a very interesting thought for you. You know why the Bills
go for it.
defense got exposed? Did you notice that the Ravens passing attack was actually in the area around where Taron Johnson would have been, around the area
Yep.
where they attacked our defense at the weakest spots. They did
Mhm.
not try to go after, guys like Christian Benford. They went after the spots where Taron Johnson would have been, the spots where Terrell
Yep.
Bernard would have been. Their
Mhm.
offensive attack was schemed just well enough to expose the Bills' weaknesses in depth, and that was why they lost. And that was why the Bills lost.
Yep. And I
100%.
agree. And there's the reason for concern heading into this week is based on how the Ravens attacked the Bills defense in the areas of concern, which is nickel corner, which where Taron Johnson would play, and the
Like
middle
goat.
of the field where Terrell Bernard is able to survey the middle of the field. So not having either one of them, or at least both of them for this weekend, makes it a reason for concern because of how the Ravens exposed the Bills defense in that sense. Because now all Houston has to do is not really mimic the game plan, is adjust their game plan to attack the Bills' weakest areas, which is not having Johnson or Bernard on the field. Say if Johnson is able to go on Sunday, it seems just based on how McDermott's talking that Bernard is closer to returning than
Mhm.
Johnson, which is
Much.
which is odd for some reason because Johnson got hurt week 1 and they didn't
Don't
put
remind
him on
me.
IR,
I'm still in pain.
which which is odd because this week would be the 4th week. So if he doesn't return this week, the question is why wasn't he put on IR? And is there anything else? Is his injury more severe than we actually thought it was? Is McDermott being too cautious like he normally is with injuries? But we'll see. Injuries right now are too early to speculate whether if Bernard or Johnson will play this weekend, but it seems like Bernard's in a step closer to returning. I'm going to be honest with you. I think Bernard having Bernard on the field for this weekend helps, but I think the Bills need Johnson more than Bernard this weekend, just
Mhm.
based on the sheer weapons that the Texans have. With Diggs, Collins, Dell,
Yeah, Nico
Schultz at
Collins
tight
is a
end.
freak.
So
Mhm.
having Johnson back at corner
Would have
helps
been
a
huge for
lot
sure. It would have been huge for
because
sure, but I definitely don't think he'll be back.
mm-mm, we'll see. But what I learned from the Bills this weekend watching this game is maybe we were just a little too excited after a Bills win of that magnitude
I
against
think
the
we all
Jags,
were.
and we kind of were like we were what is it? We were blinded by by the Bills win. We
Everybody
thought
was.
and
You
we
go
just
out there and
thought
you
that
just
this
beat
team
somebody
was the
like that.
best team where this week they came out and they looked flat, and which is normal to say. But what I really learned, or just really am going to take away from this game, is how this team, even though after a tough loss, isn't going to allow this to linger. They know they weren't
Mhm.
prepared for this game. They know that they really didn't play up to the standards held to them. And
Mhm.
if you would look back to last year, and if the Bills would have took a 35-10 loss last season,
Oh
Josh
boy.
Allen will look defeated. The team will look defeated. No real accountability was going to be taken. What I learned is this team is going to be accountable after losses and they're going to fix it. And they're going to fix it quick and they're going to fix it up to Buffalo Bills standards way because the Bills don't get blown out in the regular season. This was
Not
the
often.
Bills' first blowout loss in like 43 games
Mhm.
in the regular season.
I'd like for you
And
to
that
do something for me,
honestly,
Paul.
huh?
I'd like for you to do something for me.
Yeah.
So, do you remember the last time when the Buffalo Bills got blown out like that in the regular season?
I do.
Do you remember what happened in the very next game they played?
Wasn't
Go
they
look.
came out?
Go look.
I forget.
It
Is it 2021 season?
it was 2021, I'm pretty sure, when Carson Wentz and Jonathan Taylor absolutely bulldozed the Bills. Look at what they did. Look
Yeah.
at the game next week. Oddly
Let me
enough, it
pull
was
it up.
literally Jonathan Taylor then, Derrick Henry now.
Yeah, I mean, we got yeah, we got what is it? Yeah. It was the Saints on Thanksgiving the following week. That following week on Thanksgiving, and we came out and we destroyed the
Spit the
New
score
Orleans
out.
Saints the following week. Yeah.
Spit the score out.
31-6 Bills over the Saints on Thanksgiving.
Do you see
That
why
also,
I'm you
even
see
though
why
that
my
was a
confidence is
great night,
high?
we also lost Trey White that game too.
Pain. At the same time, at the same time though, you see what happened the last time the Bills went through something like this. They got blown to
Yep.
pieces in one game. The very next game they came out and they showed that they learned from what happened and they absolutely crushed their next opponent. There is optimism that the Bills can do it again, but it's a weekly league and not one same outcome occurs all the time. So, as a matter of fact, let's move on. We have more topics. We already
Yeah, we
went
do.
over what we learned. I think this next one's going to ruffle some feathers. Oh man, it's really going to ruffle some feathers.
Yeah, because what
Specific
we've
feathers. You know
learned
what I mean, Paul.
about the
Very
Bills
specific
team,
feathers.
with the what we've learned from the Bills team this weekend was there was some holes within the positives that you could take out of this. And the holes lie between the maybe the two biggest issues on the Bills team right now. Tyler Bass and the safety room. What is the bigger
Oh,
issue? And
well,
don't say both. You have to choose one.
I'm not
I'm
gonna
making you
say
choose one.
no, no, there is no both. Yes, it's both. Yes, they're both bad, but no, there's not both. There is a very clear answer, and as much as I hate to say it, the clear answer is Tyler Bass. I love this guy. Look at the
Great
jersey
dude.
on the back of my
Love
wall
cats.
right over there. It is literally it's a side Tyler Bass jersey. I love that guy. A great kicker is one of the best things a team could have, but Tyler Bass lately has not been the definition of great. I'm
Yeah.
still wondering, and it's still lingering in the back of my head when Sean McDermott brought in a a whole group of kickers for a tryout. I wonder if he's going to do it again because first of all, I'm still not ready. Second of all, man, you just wonder what he's got up his sleeve because out of the kickers you brought in the last time, none of them are really good. So I
Mhm.
figured they stick with Tyler Bass. Now all of a sudden this happened, and keep in mind Brandon McManus has now been eligible is now eligible to play football again and is probably going to find a team at some point. The thing about Tyler Bass is though, I'm pretty sure he has a guaranteed salary right now of like $11 million. And if you cut him, you eat
Yeah.
most of it, if not all of it.
Yeah,
So
you
you
eat about
realistically
7 million of that
Mhm.
right now in
you
dead
can't
cap.
you can't cut Tyler Bass. You just can't.
Hey,
Not with that kind of dead cap hit. You cannot cut Tyler Bass.
do you let me give you a scenario here with Tyler Bass because I'm going to agree with you that Tyler Bass is an issue. And if I would choose out of the Bills safety room or Tyler Bass, that's more of an issue. It's going to be Tyler Bass because Tyler Bass kicked a 50-yard field goal to put the Bills on the board. And then you couldn't, I believe his next field goal attempt was 42 yards.
Mhm.
What? You could kick the long one, but then you can't consistently kick a 42-yard field goal after that. And it's the inconsistency is my issue with Tyler Bass. And let me get into the safety room really, really quick before I give you my scenario. The safety room looked bad on Sunday. They straight up Hamlin didn't have a good game.
Nope.
Cole Bishop looked like a rookie. And
Yeah,
Taylor
confused. He
Rapp,
looked very confused.
he looked very confused, but he also had some really good moments in that game too. I mean,
Mhm.
how he tackled in college, he brought that to the NFL because he plugged some really good run gaps on Sunday as well. and just based off the tape that I've seen posted through Twitter. But Tyler Bass just can't consistently kick with confidence, and that's the issue. Because if you flip it, if you let's flip it for just a minute. What if the Bills were the Chiefs and they played all one score games in the first 4 weeks, and you had to rely on Tyler Bass to at least get you one of those games, which Harrison Butker for the Kansas City Chiefs had to against the Bengals. That's probably your first loss of the season because he can't consistently kick. A 50-yarder, 40-yarder, or 30-yarder. I mean, at this point, I don't know if he can kick a field goal from the extra point spot, even though he's perfect kicking extra points this season. But I want to give you a scenario. If the
Oh,
Bills
okay.
signed Brandon McManus, do you inactivate Tyler Bass for a few weeks, see how McManus works? If McManus can consistently kick for the Buffalo Bills, do you feel that the Bills will just inactivate Tyler Bass for the rest of the season and then cut him after? Because the cut after this season goes from about 7 million to about 3 million after this season.
Yeah. Now you could most likely cut him after the season if you choose to cut him. But I'm just going to present you with my own counter scenario, so to speak. How about we don't cut him at all, wait until the draft, and look at the highest available kicker and take one in like the fifth or sixth round? Fingers crossed. I'm looking at you, Ryan. I'm looking at you, my GOAT kicker on my college team. I'm looking right at you. Please declare for the draft. The Bills could use you, man. That man is a legend because that's all the points FSU ever gets is him. So, Ryan Fitzgerald, if you can hear me, I got a Bills hat for you whenever you finally decide you want to come out and go to the draft. Declare for that draft, man. We'll draft you right away.
Yeah, I mean, here
Oh
that's
man, I would
because
kill for
because
I'd kill for that.
if you ever take a kicker, take one from Iowa. Drew Stevens is right now is the number right now. Obviously, we're still waiting on if people are going to declare for the draft. So Drew
Mhm.
Stevens might not even declare for the draft.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
But Drew Stevens right now is rated the third best kicker in college football in this draft class. So fingers crossed if you're hoping the Bills draft a kicker with one of their few draft picks. He's currently right now projected as a sixth rounder to a UDFA. It looks like the current projections for Ryan Fitzgerald, who's the number one kicker in this draft class, is 4 through 6. So it seems like
All right, we're taking him.
Ryan Fitzgerald most likely will be the first kicker off the board
Make it
if
happen, Bean.
you're interested in drafting a kicker.
Make it happen, Bean.
It just depends where we are at the end of the season, you
Mhm.
know, for the draft at this point.
Well, we're gonna have pick 32 and 33, so
I, I mean, that's the hope, right? That's always the hope, to have the last pick of the first round because that indicates you're doing some great things. But what are some positives that you are going to take away from a blowout loss?
Josh Allen didn't get hurt. I know he had the little thing go on with his back, but overall he looked like he was able to tough it out and get going
Whew.
again. So there's your positive. Josh Allen didn't get hurt. Your negatives, everything else.
Yeah, Josh Allen is still the
Actually,
Bills quarterback heading into this week. When I saw Josh Allen go down, and then they flipped to a camera shot of Dalton Kincaid also injured for a moment,
oh dude,
I'm
that
sitting
was
there. I'm
like,
like,
yeah.
I'm sitting
Wha-
there like I'm like
That is the
sitting there. I'm
reaction
like,
of
oh
yeah.
no.
Yeah, that's the
I was
reaction
like,
literally
no.
everybody had, I'm sure. It's just like that look on everybody's faces that they pan to in the college football games where they're just like,
No.
that was all of us that
And
night,
your
I
gr
promise,
and
because we were like,
the
please tell me
first
both of them aren't injured.
and the first thing that you look into your Bills group chats during the game, it's over because both
It's over.
Kincaid and Josh Allen are on the field, and you're like, "Is this actually it?" And
Yeah, like,
there's your
are
positive. Josh Allen
Josh
is
Allen didn't get
okay.
hurt. Yep, he's
It's
fine.
just a little bit of back pain. He's going to be okay.
Yeah, back pain
Uh,
from having to carry this team now.
take some ibuprofen. He should be okay by Wednesday. But if there was any positives I will take away from this game is Keon Coleman bounced
Mhm.
back after
Yep,
a crucial drop.
yep.
Because
Okay, yeah,
if he
that's a
was
good one
any
too.
other rookie if he was any other rookie, I don't think he bounces back the same way, as Keon did. I mean, you dropping a crucial ball in the first half when you're down at that, I believe the Bills were still down 21-3 at that point, and you drop a really crucial ball within the final 2 minutes that could put the Bills inside the five, and possibly grab a touchdown before you end the first half. Keon catches that football, the entire game plan shifts. Like, okay, we can actually attack downfield. Keon Coleman got the football. Off we go. And it kind of changes your second half game plan just a little bit. But Joe Brady and Josh Allen went back to Keon. Keon caught some really good sideline catches. He also he also caught one, I believe that one over the middle. So they went back to Keon. Keon redeemed himself, and he looked really good after a crucial drop in the first half. There has to be a standout player from this game. Which play that stood out to you after this
Uh,
week? Even though we lost by 25 points, someone had to stand out. Who was it?
well, uh, first off, it was definitely that sideline pass from Josh Allen to Khalil Shakir. That was beautiful. That made me really happy. I was like, "Oh my god, they've got life again." So, I loved that.
And then they didn't.
Yep, and that was beautiful, and that's the only real play I can remember out of any good things that happened in
Yeah.
that game. That was the best thing to happen in that game. So, there you have it. That was
Yeah.
really short because that's all I needed to say.
Because that was the only real good thing that happened for the Bills that entire game. You know,
Mhm.
it started with a Dalton Kincaid drop, and then Keon dropped a big ball, and then coaching decisions were just off in this
Oh
game.
god, don't
You
even
know,
don't
from
even go there.
not from not going for it on fourth down. I'm not going to crucify Sean McDermott uh, not going for it on that 4th and 2 inside your own zone. I think it was like 4th and 2 from like your 30-ish yard line. Like I think it was like the 35. The yard line might be off there. But it's 4th and 2. You were already down, I believe 11 at that point, and it was 4th and 2, somewhat deep in your own territory. Just say the Bills don't get that 4th and 2. I mean, you're giving Lamar Jackson and that Baltimore offense, all the momentum right back, and they only have to go like 30 plus yards downfield, and just to do the same thing they've done to you all first quarter, all first half. So I don't blame Sean McDermott not going for it on that 4th and 2, but all the other fourth downs that he decided not to go for, you have to go for it there, but not that one. The standout player for me in this game, and there's not many, but I'm going to give it to Balin Spector. I mean, even though that he had a sack, and I believe he had the forced fumble in the game. Let me go check the box score because I believe he had the forced fumble. Not 100% sure, but even though the linebackers looked lost all night against the Ravens, Balin Spector and just looked good. I'm not gonna say he looked great. He just looked good. And really that's all it was for the entire game. Yes, he had the sack and he had a forced fumble and he had six combined tackles in this game. So shout out to Balin Spector. And let's move on to Bills Houston game because I'm done talking about
Aren't
this
we all?
blowout
We got
loss. I'm
Paul, you got
I'm done.
10 minutes before we gotta get to game picks. So let's move it.
We're
But,
talking too much.
yeah, what? Yeah, not me for once. Golly, Paul. You try to copy me or something?
There's a lot on my mind after this
I
loss
can
tonight.
tell there's more on yours than there is mine, and I think that's a shocker because usually I'm the one that has to be told to shut up. Anyway, uh, let's just go ahead and hit these quick because we have game picks to get to, and yeah, I want to yell about these because they're going to be some good ones. So, will
I
the
mean,
Bills will the Bills play Taron Johnson or Terrell Bernard this week? I'm still firmly on the absolutely not train. I think that Bernard would be the first one to come back after the remarks made by Coach McDermott. I definitely don't think they are going to. They're both definitely not playing this game, but maybe we see Bernard
you're
in a
making me
week.
nervous.
I am being realistic, okay?
I
I
know, but
we
you're
do
also
not
making
see
me nervous.
yeah, we don't see both of them this week. Maybe we see Bernard next week, and maybe we see Johnson in a few weeks, but right now we're not gonna see either of them this week. I hope I'm wrong. Maybe we got them
Please
like
be wrong.
maybe the Bills training staff flew them to the Fountain of Youth and dumped them both in it, and that healed them
Yeah.
or something. I don't know. And then they come back and play this week. But at the moment though, I can't see it right now. Neither of them are playing this week. Hopefully I'm wrong, but we'll see when Coach McDermott speaks to the media about it in a few days. Anyway,
Yeah, he'll
what do
probably
you think,
speak
Paul?
tomorrow about it. He'll
Yeah,
probably speak on Wednesday about injuries. That's normally when you start, their first practice after, a Sunday game. So we'll see what he says and see if they practice. Like you said, Bernard is closer than Taryn. If that's the case, I expect Bernard to play. If it
mhm.
seems like he was full for most of last week in the time that he was practicing, so that's a good sign for Bernard, and that's a good sign for the Bills linebacking room, which looked lost on Sunday, and I've said that several times this week, just on tonight, and I need one of them back. One of them
I
back.
mean, yeah, we could all use at least one of them back, but the important thing is that we can't rush them back just because of one bad game.
And I don't think
So
they're going to rush him,
they
but
can't. They can't afford to put somebody back in at 90% compared to putting someone in at
I was
100%.
about to say, if he was 90%, throw him out there, but you
Don't
don't
even
have to throw him
no.
out there in full snaps. Throw him out
Yeah,
there in
like,
half
it would
snaps
have to be
because
a
half
very,
of
very
Bernard is
limited
better
snap
than no
count.
Bernard.
Yeah, it's literally like load management in the NBA right now. But
There
at
you
the
go.
end of the
Let's get to
day,
game pick.
let's move on to you had one more topic, Paul. You're gonna skip it or are you gonna go to game picks?
Skip it. We'll figure it. We'll preview this
Okay,
Texans game
okay,
in
fine.
a
Yeah.
in a Connor picks maybe
All right,
tomorrow
cool. Okay.
later this
CJ
week.
Stroud sucks. All right, I'm kidding. All right, move on.
All right, let's move on to game picks. Connor, you had a 6-0 week.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I know
You
ball.
went You went 6-0 last week,
I know
and I
ball.
went 5-1 last week.
I know
That
ball.
makes you in first place. I'm a game behind. Ben is a solid 2 games behind because he went 2-4.
Ouch.
So our little alliance last week worked out.
Well, it worked out more for me than it did you, but it still worked out. But
There's only 5 games picked this week because I don't think Ben ever sent us the
no, he
Ravens
did.
Bengals game. So he sent us every game but the Ravens Bengals.
Oh, rip. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, let's get to it because we got some fun ones tonight.
All right, so the first game of the slate is the Thursday night game in Atlanta. The Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield is 7-3 against the AFC South, and this is the
First of all, you mean the
32nd
NFC South.
meeting. Huh?
You said AFC South.
Oh yes, I meant the NFC South. It's okay.
I know
One of
I
the two is
sent
fine.
you a very cool realignment chart of divisions, but we're not in that universe, Paul.
So he's 7-3 against the NFC South. This is the uh 62nd meeting between the Falcons and the Bucks, but this is the last 5 meetings have been decided by 2 or less scores. Who wins?
Well, obviously, I'm gonna have to go for the hometown crew. Look at how good they looked last week against Philly. Look at what Atlanta did last week. I'm taking Tampa Bay all day, every day. Let Baker bake. Let Baker
Let
bake.
Baker
Let
bake.
him
Yes,
let him absolutely make Chris Godwin into one of the better receivers in the NFL, if as he was like he wasn't already. I mean, for God's sakes, don't sleep on Chris Godwin. Don't sleep on Mike Evans. Don't sleep on the entire Tampa Bay offense. They are absolutely legit.
that
Tampa
Tampa
Bay
Bay
gonna
offense,
win this
that Tampa
game,
Bay
and Tampa Bay's
defense
gonna
looked
get a
really
nice.
good.
Yep, Tampa Bay's gonna win this game and get a very, very nice push into leading the NFC South until the Saints trade for Devontae Adams and all that gets flipped on its head. But anyway, yeah, I actually looked
Ben
it up.
took Atlanta
They have a lot of cap to have to clear if they want to trade for Devontae Adams, like a lot.
a lot. Ben took Atlanta. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to take Tampa Bay. Just Tampa Bay looked really good. Baker Mayfield looks really crisp this season, and just based off what he did last year, he's continuing it to this year. Browns fans wish he was back in Cleveland, but they can't. So that means we got to get up early this weekend because the Jets and Minnesota are in London for the first international game this season.
Why are we getting up early to watch this? I'm not watching that.
You're not?
I'm kidding. I'm gonna be following along. I probably won't be able to watch, but I'll be following along considering it's that early on a Sunday morning. But
It is a 9:30 game.
let's just be
Ben went
honest.
Minnesota. Who do you
I'm
go?
also going Minnesota. The reason I genuinely thought the Jets at one point was because it's Aaron Rodgers and he is kind of known for beating up on the Vikings, but it's not the same Aaron Rodgers. So it would be absolutely completely Vikings to lose this game to Aaron Rodgers and the Jets,
Mhm.
but I'm going to just stick with the Vikings.
Vikings are fourth in points allowed this season. They're only allowing teams to score 14.8 points a game. The rush defense ranks top 3 in all rushing
hmm
defensive categories this season. Give me the Vikings. If the Jets can't run the football, and if the Vikings are not allowing teams to score points, the Jets might only score 9 points this game, which the
Th-
exact same points they scored against Denver last
oh,
week.
man. You know what? Kudos to Brian Flores for knowing what a defense is. A bunch of people down south in my state owe Brian Flores the largest apology you could possibly imagine right now. Just saying.
Let's go from London to the nation's capital, where the Washington Commanders are surprisingly 3-1. Jalen Jalen Daniels has the best completion percentage out of the entire National Football League. They will host the Cleveland Browns.
You know what's going to happen here? First off, who did Ben take?
Ben took Washington.
You know how weird this is to see a Washington Commanders team be good? This is weird to me, okay? I have only ever
It is a
known the
little weird.
Commanders as mid to trash. This is a weird feeling to be like, "Oh, the Commanders are really gonna be good?" But, let me also point this out for the fantasy football players out there. If you've got the Browns defense, go ahead and get rid of them right now. Washington is absolutely gonna stay on a roll and just torch them. I just have a feeling. I just have a really big feeling that Jaden Daniels is going to continue his stride. He's going to be really good and he's going to wax the Browns, which is what we all want to see. So I'm taking Washington. Oddly enough, I'm taking Washington.
Both of you have Washington improving to 4-1, and I agree.
Oh,
Uh,
so we're
with
unanimous
what
then.
we are unanimous for the second straight pick. So that means the Jets or the Browns will either win this weekend. Hopefully, the Jets don't win this weekend. All right, let's go to our next game. Green Bay going on the road to Los Angeles. You know, here's an interesting stat for you.
Wait a minute.
The
Green Bay against LA?
Green Bay against LA, but Jordan Love this season's 0-2. Malik Willis is 2-0 for the
Hmm.
Green Bay Packers.
Interesting.
Who wins?
Very interesting. Well, consider the following. The Rams are basically a walking infirmary right now. I thought they'd be a whole lot
Yeah,
better than that this season, but the walking infirmary status of the Ravens, the Rams really makes me not want to go their way. I mean, look at what happened last week. Look at who they lost to. They lost to Caleb Williams and the Bears. So I'm taking the Packers. I think that it's going to be one of those games where they just allow Malik Willis to do what he does. They didn't adjust much for Malik Willis, I think. Oh, wait. Jordan Love is healthy, so he's gonna start, right? Yeah, if
that's
Jordan Love
the
is
hope.
healthy,
Yeah.
he should start. Yeah. I still think the Packers are gonna win this game because they're just gonna rely on Josh Jacobs quite a fair bit, I would think. But who knows? There's still a lot, there's a lot that goes into this game. I still think the Packers are gonna win this game because the Rams are just
Oh,
too
I agree.
depleted to win this game.
Ben went Green Bay. You went Green Bay. We're going to agree for the third straight pick.
Now
I'm
I think
going
you're
Green
just
Bay.
copying my picks, Paul. Come on now.
I wrote my picks down before anyone had their picks in.
All right.
So
Whatever you say.
there you go. Green
Whatever
Bay
you
is going to
say, Paul.
win. They're due for a win if they're going to stay alive in this playoff race that
Mhm.
seems very sporadic in the wild NFC that there is. There's one more game on Sunday, and our last game pick of the game. This is the first Sunday night appearance ever for these two teams to face facing each other. The Steelers are hosting the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night football this weekend. First time these two will match up on a Sunday night.
Oh God. They're playing in Dallas, right?
No, they're in Pittsburgh.
Oh, they are in Pittsburgh. Okay.
They are in Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah. Last time I watched a Dallas versus Pittsburgh game in Pittsburgh, I got my heart ripped out by Ezekiel Elliott with 41 seconds left in the friggin' game. But anyway, that would be hilarious if that happened again. They get right up. It's a fourth and goal situation. The Cowboys need to score, and they put Ezekiel Elliott behind Dak, and Zeke does it again. That would be hilarious. That's a tough one. I don't. This is tough. Like this is probably the toughest one on the list. You know what? I'm gonna take Dallas, and I think I'm gonna take Dallas just because I think we finally seen Pittsburgh hit the ceiling. I think with how they played against the Colts, yeah, they did manage to nearly come back, but I don't think they're going to have the same kind of luck against Dallas. I think Dallas probably won't make it too easy. Like I think they're going to struggle quite a bit with Pittsburgh, but I still don't think that Pittsburgh's going to win that game. So I'm taking Dallas.
Ben took Dallas. You guys know my hatred for the Dallas Cowboys.
I hate them too.
They're yeah, they're an interestingly weird team this year. At times they look good, at times they look bad. But the Steelers competed against the Indianapolis Colts, led by Richardson and Joe Flacco last week. Dallas is a tough team. They have a really good defense. Micah Parsons doesn't seem like he's going to play this week.
Uh oh.
In that case, give me the Pittsburgh Steelers at home.
Oh, all right. Yeah, the last time I rooted for the Steelers at home against Cowboys, I already said it. What happened? That was a very painful loss that made me forever hate Dallas. But anyway,
We agreed on 3 of the 5 picks. The only picks that we did not agree on as a group was Atlanta and Tampa Bay, where Ben went Atlanta, we both went Tampa Bay, and the final pick,
do it for the
which both
crew.
of you guys went Dallas and I went Pittsburgh. So
Well, we're gonna find out what happens, but I know ball.
you
Anyway,
know, ball. You win 6-0. Good for you.
yeah, and I think yeah, that was the last bit of the show. Paul, do you have any final thoughts before we conclude?
My thoughts have been fulfilled through this entire hour and 5 minutes of talking.
Are you sure
You
about
know,
that?
I am. I
Okay, good.
am I am through thinking about and overthinking about the Bills Ravens game. Gonna overthink it tomorrow. Probably gonna overthink it on Thursday. But let's let's focus on the Texans team this weekend.
Yeah,
And
the game's at 1, right?
some people are pressing the panic button. I'm not.
Yeah, 99% of people have already hit that panic button.
I'm
I
not
think
hitting the panic button yet. But if the Bills don't look like the Bills come out flat and don't look like the team I've seen in the first 3 weeks,
yeah, I'd be a little worried
there's
too.
there's going to be questions for concern.
Mhm.
Do you still press the panic button after 3-2? No, but
You
there'll
get
be
closer,
questions
but you
for
don't
concern.
press it.
We get closer.
It depends
We
on
get
what
closer.
happens during the game. Now, you have a very bad injury, yes, you press that panic button, but not unless you have a pretty bad injury. Anyway, the
And I
game's at
don't want
1,
to press
right?
that panic button.
The game's at 1, right?
Games at 1 o'clock,
Ah,
CBS.
great.
I don't know if it's a regional or a national 1 o'clock game, but I would have presumed that it would be a national 1 o'clock game. Most audiences will get the
Mhm.
Dallas and the
Well, of
Dallas.
course they get that game. You meant the,
They'll
Texans
get
and the
Houston. They'll
Bills.
get Houston and Buffalo.
Mhm.
Most audience will see Houston and Buffalo, but if it's a regional game, that would really stink for the rest of the country. But it is what it is. Bills Texans
Yeah.
this weekend.
1
Stay tuned.
o'clock, so I will literally jump right from that game into the friggin' round of 12 at Talladega, where my heart is going to probably stop because of how unpredictable that Talladega is. So, Bills could, if you could hear me, please make this game against Houston stress free. Please just
Please.
beat the
Don't think it
brakes
will
off
be,
of them.
but
Yeah, I mean, beat the brakes off of them so I don't stress going into Talladega week, please, and thank you. Anyway, that was my final thoughts. You guys make sure you follow us on Twitter. We've got some interesting takes of our own, especially me. I've been kind of going off the rails with the tweets lately, but definitely be sure to follow the show's account as well. Make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons on YouTube, and do remember that we are out on all available music platforms in case you don't want to look at either of us and you just want to hear us yell. But
there
other
you
than
go.
that, Paul, if you have if you have one final thing to say.
I don't. I don't have any.
All right. Well, then I guess
I'm good.
that'll end the show. Devontae Adams is a saint, and go Bills.
Go Bills.